Oh, hi. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Texas Action for Healthy Kids webinar on El Paso Safe Routes to School, Walk to School Day learning session. So a little bit of who we are. We are a national nonprofit organization, and our mission is to mobilize family-school partnerships to prepare kids to be healthy in body and mind to achieve our mission. So healthy kids, better world. And so we address these root causes of child health crises by ensuring that children in particularly underserved communities are supported with three foundations of lifelong health. And that includes optimal nutrition and physical activity, safe, supportive environments, and stable and nurturing adult-child relationships. And so to support our efforts to promote positive behaviors that prevent disease and including healthy eating, physical activity, smoking, vaping prevention, and positive opportunities for youth, we have a partnership with the Paso del Norte Health Foundation. And these are some of the projects that we work on. We have the Healthy Schools Project, and we also have a smoke-free Paso del Norte project. And so some logistics for today, make sure you use your phone or computer speakers. Make sure that you are muted if you're not presenting or asking a question. You can submit your questions in the chat box. My colleague Michelle will be monitoring that and bringing those up. This webinar is being recorded, and so it'll be available to you afterwards. And we'll also send a link to the slides following the webinar. So who we have here today, so my name is Stephanie McCoy. I am the Regional Project Coordinator for Action for Healthy Kids. I oversee the Healthy Schools Project and work with districts in the region to see their wellness policies and provide technical assistance around community engagement shacks and other topics regarding school health. And we also have with us Kori Johnson. She serves as a program and engagement manager at the Safe Routes Partnership. In this role, Kori provides technical assistance to communities across the country that are working to advance safe and equitable transportation options. Kori's personal and professional journey centers on building accessible, inclusive, community-driven spaces that elevate underrepresented voices. Her practice also incorporates arts-based community engagement methods. She has worked on community engagement initiatives in New York City, the Washington, D.C. Metro, and the Bay Area. Kori holds a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and Spanish from Harvard College and a Master in Science in Elementary Education from Pace University. And she currently lives in Washington, D.C. So we want to thank Kori for joining us. And we have also a local colleague, Ana Acosta, who works in the trauma department at University Medical Center of El Paso as an injury prevention and education specialist and Safe Kids El Paso coordinator. She is currently pursuing her CPH at the University of North Texas Health Science Center. With an educational background in public health and social science, she brings a unique perspective to the borderland community-based injury prevention programs while addressing social inequalities relating to factors such as class, gender, race, and poverty. Ana has 11 years of experience in injury prevention and over 20 years of experience in community service. Outside of work, Ana enjoys hiking, spending time with family, and baking vegan treats. So We are excited to have Kori and Anna with us today. And so I'll hand it over to Kori.
Thanks, Stephanie. My eyes just lit up when I heard vegan treats. It's like, I love dessert in general, and I love vegan dessert. So I might have to get some recipes from you, Anna. Hi, everyone. My name is Kori Johnson. Stephanie mentioned, thank you so much for having me here today. So I'll be talking about how to conduct a walk and roll to school day event, since that time is coming up in about a month. On October 2nd, we'll be celebrating Walk and Roll to School Day. So I will kind of give a basic overview of how to start an event like this and get one up and running in your community, and kind of give that larger national perspective. And I'm sure that Anna will kind of present this in a more local context. So that's what we're doing today. Next slide, please. So for those of you who might be new to Safe Routes Partnership, we are a national nonprofit, and our mission is to advance safe walking and rolling to and from schools and in everyday life, improving the health and well-being of people of all races, income levels, and abilities, and building healthy, thriving communities for everyone. So while we work nationally, we do a lot of work in Texas, including with Action for Healthy Kids. So that's why I was invited today. Next slide, please. So as Stephanie mentioned, I am the program and engagement manager here at the partnership. I've been here for about 4.5 years, and I'm based in Washington, D.C. But again, I work with communities all across the country, and I've really enjoyed getting to know what's happening in El Paso and all the other great programs that are happening in Texas. So looking forward to, being a part of everything that's going to happen today. Next slide. So just a bit about what Safe Routes to School is, for those of you who might be new to Safe Routes or might be thinking about starting a Safe Routes program in your community. Next slide. So Safe Routes to School is it's really a movement and a program to make school travel, which includes walking, biking, scooting, riding, safe, convenient, and fun for children of all genders, races, and abilities. I think one great thing about Safe Routes to School is that you can really make it what you want it to be. It doesn't look the same in every place, so it's something that can be tailored to the needs of your communities and in your schools, and you can really make it your own. Next slide. So just a little bit of background on, Safe Routes, why it's important. And I think that a lot of us, who are working in this space might know some of this, but just to kind of give us a refresher, get us in the right frame of mind. So, back in the 60s, in 1969, nearly 50% of children walked or biked to school. And today that number has decreased dramatically to about 13% walking or biking to school. We can talk about all the reasons for why that is, whether it's, school sighting, or just more cars on the road, not having that safe infrastructure that makes it comfortable and safe and easy to walk to school. So there are a lot of reasons for why we had that downward trend. Next slide, please. And so at the same time, again, thinking about today, we know that family car trips make up 10 to 14% of morning congestion. I wouldn't be surprised if that's even more now, given the school bus shortages that are happening. Here in DC, we actually don't have a yellow school bus program, so most of our students are walking or riding or taking transit. Some are being driven by parents, but in communities right outside of DC, here in Maryland and Virginia, there are bus shortages and a lot of school traffic during arrival and dismissal. I'm sure some of you might have experienced that as well. Motor vehicle injuries are also the biggest source of fatalities for children, whether it's as passengers or on foot or a bicycle. And again, this is information from 2016, so a bit outdated at this point, but that was what was the case then. And also injuries and fatalities are especially high in lower income communities and in communities of color. Next slide, please. So we kind of look at Safe Routes to School as a way to address some of these issues, and as a solution for getting more students out walking and rolling to school. So we know that communities that have Safe Routes to School programs have led to a 35 to 45% increase in walking and bicycling to school. Safe routes to school programs also resulted in 45% to 75% of a decrease in pedestrian injuries near a school, and also kids who walk and bike to school are just more physically active. Next slide, please. Just a few of the benefits of safe routes to school. I feel like there are so many, there's kind of something for everybody. So whether you're approaching safe routes to school from a climate angle and thinking about how, less cars on the road means, less congestion, less, car pollution, to community connectedness, being able to walk or ride to school with a group of friends just helps people, feel like they can, be closer together, and it helps kind of combat some of that social isolation, especially what's been happening, over the past few years with remote learning and the pandemic. Being able to get out and connect with each other is even more important, and safe routes to school can really be a part of that. Better academic performance, so students being able to, get to class on time and be mentally and physically ready to learn. Being able to walk or roll to school can definitely help with that. Even things like safety from, crime or violence. Again, being able to walk or roll to school, in a group with that safer infrastructure can help improve, feelings of personal safety and comfort. There are also a lot of cost savings to safe routes to school, not having to pay for, a district-wide bus program, being able to, spend those resources on walking and rolling infrastructure, can help with some of those cost saving concerns people are thinking about. And again, improving traffic safety, obviously reducing the number of cars on the road, and kind of like limiting the opportunities for a car crash or serious injury to occur. And then just also supporting healthier students in general. So like I mentioned, having kids who are out walking and rolling, being physically active, connecting with their peers can help just contribute to the overall health and wellness of students. Next slide, please. So why we're here today, we're here to talk about how to plan a walk and roll to school day. Next slide. So walk and roll to school day, again, for those of you who might not be familiar, walk and roll to school day is celebrated annually. Usually it's the first Wednesday of October. I think it's been changed this year in observance of Yom Kippur, so it'll be October 12th this year. And walk to school day is really just a way to encourage walking and rolling to school and raise awareness about school travel safety. So when we think about safe routes to school, we think about it in a few different ways. So some programs, they focus on that infrastructure piece. So, getting the, sidewalks or bike lanes or, some of the engineering supports to make walking and rolling safe and easy for people. And safe routes programs also have a lot of non-infrastructure activities. And one of the main ones is walk and roll to school day in October. So it's not just, about the safe infrastructure that's important, but also those encouragement activities are also a big part of running a safe routes to school program. Next slide, please. So there are a lot of great resources online for, thinking about how to, if you want help planning or designing a walk and roll to school day event. So there is a walk and roll to school day website that has a lot of resources for planning walk to school day events. You can register to have a walk to school day event in your school or in your community. It's not required. There are also downloadable materials that you can use to plan your walk and roll to school day. And I do see some notes in the chat about some people planning their walk to school day event for October 5th. That's fine. I don't know if every community has made that switch. I know that some communities updated their event due to the Jewish holiday. So if you haven't, and I assume that that's fine. But I think that the official word at the National Center for Walk and Roll to School Day is that they're observing it on the 12th. But if you're not, it's totally fine. There are even people who do walk and roll to school day outside of the official celebration day. So like I mentioned earlier, safe routes programs are, customizable, adapted for your communities and for the needs of your specific context. So there's no right or wrong way to do any of this. Next slide, please. So as far as celebrating walk and roll to school day and what that can look like, again, lots of different options for what the celebration can look like, depending on what your community wants, what you need, and how you want to celebrate. So a lot of schools have arrival celebrations. Maybe they have a banner or a mascot or people cheering kids in as they're, walking or rolling to school. Some schools offer, prizes or incentives, whether it's little, bike light or sticker or pen or just something bright and fun and cool. I feel like people love giveaways. So usually whatever is handed out, people are pretty excited about. Maps. So just including maps that show the safe routes to walk to school. I think that that's been really helpful for a lot of communities, just kind of knowing which way should I go? So to have some sort of official map from, a school or a local organization helps students and families feel more comfortable knowing which ways they can walk and roll to school safely. And also just in different educational materials, whether they're, activity books or other tips that promote safe walking and rolling. Sometimes communities have, special guests, whether it's, like a local, I'll say local celebrity, but, just somebody who can kind of, be that inspirational and fun figure. I mentioned a mascot earlier, and I'll show you an example of what that looks like towards the end of the presentation. But it's meant to be a really fun and celebratory event. Next slide. So thinking about different types of walk and roll to school day events, it doesn't have to look the same everywhere, like I just mentioned. Sometimes schools organize group walk and rolls. So, encouraging people to, gather together as a team and celebrate together, even like a walking and rolling school bus. So, designating a leader to lead a walking school bus across the community. So it kind of, for those of you who might not be familiar with the walking school bus model, it functions very similarly like a regular school bus, where there are different stops along the way and there's a leader, and as they walk or roll to school, they pick up the students along the route. This can be done with both walkers, and also students might be riding bikes or on scooters as well. We also know that, there are some students who can't walk or roll to school for many different reasons. So having a remote drop off could also be a way to allow more students to participate in walk and roll to school day. So, on that day, maybe instead of, pulling into the bus loop or the regular drop off zone, you'll organize a drop off area, maybe like a block or two away from the school. So students get dropped off in that spot and they can walk and roll into the building from there. So again, just giving people more opportunities to participate, and acknowledging that not everyone can walk to school or roll to school. It might not be safe for everybody to walk or roll to school. Some students just might live too far to walk and roll to school, but we want to make sure that everybody can participate. There's also the option of doing a walk and roll at school. So maybe, once students get inside, they walk or roll around the school building or around the blacktop or around the playground or around the school perimeter. So again, still creating opportunities for students to walk and roll, even if they're not walking and rolling to school. Maybe they're doing something that's on campus. So lots of ways to make the celebration work. Next slide, please. So just to go over in a bit more detail what some of these examples look like, for a group walk and roll, if you want to do something like that, you might want to get started by figuring out, which routes you want to work on, designating your group leader, and having some fun activities along the way. You could have little, physical activities for students to do. Maybe there's a thinking, maybe there's a talking prompt that you want to give the kids as they're walking, but just something kind of fun and interesting as you're, making your way to school. And also involving community partners. So, volunteers, parents, caregivers, elected officials, community leaders, who can be along the route, who can be those group leaders. Thinking about the capacity of school staff, that might be a challenge to get school staff to be able to do something like this. So really thinking about who can you call on in your community to lead some of these group walks. I think that would be a smart way to go these days. Next slide. So for something like a remote drop-off, like I mentioned, where you have a drop-off spot that's a bit further away from your school campus, it's important to designate, like where that drop-off will be. Obviously coordinate it with your school so that that they're okay with it and that they're on board with both safety and logistics. And then have your group walk or roll, to campus, and kind of really take advantage of that remote drop-off spot. And again, this is great for families who are, too far to walk, students who ride the bus to school, students who might not be able to walk or who use mobility devices. This is a great option, again, to make sure that Walk and Roll to School Day is something that everybody can be involved in and celebrate. Next slide. And I mentioned Walk and Roll at campus. And this could be a really fun opportunity to, set up some sort of fun route or course. Maybe it's something where, there are little stations along the way and students do something fun at each station. Or if you're allowed to use sidewalk chalk or draw on the sidewalk or the ground, just again, to spice up the atmosphere, something like that could be fun. You can also designate a time to do this. So will it be before school, during school, after school? Is it a part of, PE class or recess or lunch? And again, work with your school to figure out what the best time would be. And then again, also great for students who might be able to, walk or roll the whole route to school. Next slide. So just thinking a bit about making the most of your event. Like I mentioned before, Walk and Roll to School Day can be, as simple or as elaborate as you would like for it to be. It's, a great way to, like I mentioned, to kind of bring in those safety education pieces. So, to talk about, how to be, pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, how to get to school safely. You can also use this opportunity to do some walkability assessments. So as kids are walking or rolling to school, think about things that you might think that are great or things that might need fixing. If you see that there's a place where a sidewalk ends, or there isn't a curb, or there's overgrown vegetation, or it's just hard to get around, make note of those, and then you can kind of take that back to your own community, to your planners, your engineers, or your school districts, and say, and advocate for those infrastructure changes that might make it easier for people to walk or bike to school. Then also inviting local media. I'll show you an example of what that can look like at the end. But this is also a chance for you to kind of, show off your school community and celebrate. At the same time, raising awareness about walking and biking and rolling and why it's so important, especially for, students and young people who are traveling to school. Next slide. Just a few steps to planning your event, just deciding what type of event you'd like to do. That should be first step. So walking roll to school day, if that's your mission, then great. And then connecting with your school to get that buy-in. So connecting with your school administrators. Again, knowing that there's limited capacity for school staff right now, I would suggest coming to them with a plan already and saying, I thought about this. This is what we'd like to do. Here's how we want to do it. And presenting it that way, making it really easy for the school administrators to say yes. That's really important. If you'd like to, registering your event on walk and bike to schoolday.org, recruiting your partners and volunteers, planning your logistics, and then promoting your event, holding it, and then following up afterwards. Next slide, please. So as far as planning logistics, some things you might think about including in your Walk to School Day event, your maps, flyers, incentives, permits if you'd need to. I guess, again, that depends on your local context, and getting your volunteers and partners in place. Next slide. And then as far as promoting your event, so, maybe a week or two before your event, just having those announcements are running in, school calendar, in the e-news. Some people might want to, advertise on their, local radio or TV. However you want to communicate that this is happening is fine. Having banners or signs, flyers, whatever communications, structures and processes you have in your community, you should be tapping into those. And then about a week before the event, again, more flyering, having those walking maps available, sending reminders. If you want to involve local media, just sending them those, advisories to the newspapers, radio stations, TV stations, and then having those educational materials or safety tips ready to go for the event. Next slide. And then again, just more promotional ideas the day before the event, reminding students, reminding families, having a sticker you can put on kids saying walk to school day is tomorrow, having a half sheet flyer or a postcard, school announcements. If you want to do a press release, again, great idea, but don't have to. And then after the event, if you can gather information about how many students participated, if there are any, photos or stories you can share online or in your social networks to help raise awareness about the event and celebrate. That's just a great way to continue to keep the momentum going. Next slide. And then after your event, just, saving those materials, following up with your contacts, keeping the photos and press coverage going, hopefully, and then just sending a thank you note to your volunteers, partners, and I'd say with this, school administration too, just thanking them for the event. And hopefully people will be inspired to continue to do events like this. So again, it doesn't have to be on official walk to school day. This can happen, other days as well. Next slide. Just a few additional resources. I put in a link for the Walk and Roll to School Day website, the Safe Routes Partnership website where I am. We have a lot of information about walk and roll to school day, how to start a walking school bus, how to start a bike train. So take a look at those as well. And then if you can go to the next slide. I think that I put a link to our building blocks toolkit. So for those of you who are looking to kind of use Walk and Roll to School Day as a way to, accelerate your Safe Routes to School program or get an official program set up, we do have this toolkit that helps communities start Safe Routes to School programs and kind of gives more of that background information about the program, what it is, different Safe Routes activities, how to form a Safe Routes to School task force, some action planning resources with customizable templates and other resources for you to use. So definitely check out those as well. And my last slide is just a quick clip from a Walk to School Day event that I went to last year, right outside of DC here right outside of DC in Montgomery County, Maryland. My disclaimer is that this is probably one of the larger Walk to School Day celebrations that I've been a part of. So your event does not have to look like this. It can look like however you want it to look like. But this is a good example of the celebratory spirit behind Walk and Roll to School Day and what it could be, and also how lots of different partners can get involved in the process. So I will go ahead and share this now, and hopefully the sound will work.
Amidst a sea of umbrellas, county officials and student staff and families from Summit Hall Elementary School gathered to celebrate the 24th Annual International Walk to School Day.
It is International Walk to School Day on this beautiful rainy morning. We are so excited. We've been talking about safety to and from school all week long, getting kids hyped up and excited about walking to school.
Today is awesome. You see the energy out here. School is about getting to school safely, learning while you're here, and that's what everyone's out here to do, from our transportation, police, and fire to the school community. We've got Zeke the Zebra from the Department of Transportation, whose job is to make sure to emphasize all the things. Look at the stop sign, cross at the crosswalk, wear something that's reflective if you're at night. All the things that we want our kids to learn and have a second nature, so that as they're getting to and from school, they can be safe.
Hi, happy Walk to School Day.
Say hi, thank you. Today is a great day because I got a free gift bag and there's a fire truck right there.
So we're giving all of the kids bags of material that have guidance on how to walk safely to school, reflective items so that they can be seen when it's dark or raining, an activity kit, whistles, and all kinds of fun stuff. And it's also to encourage people to try walking to school rather than getting dropped off by mom or dad or taking the bus. It's a fun way to get to school, get some exercise, and start your day off with a little activity.
Walk to school! Walk to school! Walk to school!
So it's just a little clip of a Walk to School Day event, and that was actually put together by the local school district. Their communications team came out and shot some footage. And again, there were elected officials there, school staff there, students, parents, caregivers, local agency staff. So, if you are connected to your local school district and they do have some sort of, comms or media team that can go out and get some footage for you, that's also a great way to spread the word about Walk and Roll to School Day. So I'm going to wrap up there. I think my contact information is on the last page. So again, please feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions about Walk and Roll to School Day or Safe Routes to School in general. And I'll be happy to answer questions at the end. And I will pass it over to Anna to talk a bit about
there was
her work in a
one
local
quick
context.
question for you. Is there a way to request signs, or what do they do for walk to school if they don't have crossing guards? How can they make it safer for walking?
Yeah, so we've had some communities where they just have like volunteers, volunteer crossing guards, or people from school staff, school volunteers. So that's one way that I've seen people do that. Also having like different community partners. So if there's a local walking group or bike coalition, people who like might have a bit more experience of like navigating a street and I don't want to say patrolling a street, but just like getting people maneuvering around the street, safely. Those can be great partners as well. And then as far as signs, I've seen people get signs from, sometimes it's like their local Safe Kids Coalition, sometimes it's public health department or another community partner. Sometimes people make it into like a community activity and they make their own signs. And there are also a lot of resources, downloadable resources on that Walk and Roll to School Day website, which I can put in the chat box as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
Is that me? Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Okay.
you.
Perfect. Thank you, Kori. I really enjoyed that presentation. I think mine will definitely complement it, especially what we're doing here in the local level. Again, my name is Acosta. I'm the Injury Prevention Education Specialist and Safe Kids El Paso Coordinator for the Trauma Department here at University Medical Center of El Paso. And I'm going to discuss our walk, bike, and ready to roll activities that we've been hosting here in El Paso. And I've been doing this work for pedestrian safety and bike safety walk to school days for, I want to say, going on about 10 years now. So we've done a lot of the events that Kori was talking about. We've made little ones, and now we're expanding to bigger and bigger. It's really exciting. First, I want to begin with a little bit about what we do here at the trauma department. So we are a level 1 trauma center, and as that, we're mandated to have programs like Walk to School Day in order to prevent injuries and deaths in our communities. We also have our education program. It's where we hold courses for nurses and physicians to keep updated on their trauma trainings and certifications. And a TSN program, or Trauma Survivors Network. So this is a national program that offers peer support to trauma patients after discharge. And we just got a new coordinator, so she does make a lot of rounds on the floors and offering a lot of support and referrals to our patients. We're also mandated to have a screening and brief intervention for substance abuse for our patients, but we also go above and beyond that, and we furthered our screening to include child abuse, domestic violence, suicide risk, PTSD, depression, and anxiety. And we have a 24/7 sexual assault nurse examiner program where we have nurses on duty all day, every day to conduct forensic exams for our patients and provide trauma-informed care. And lastly, we have a crisis intervention and stress management program where we're trained to help patients, families, first responders, and medical staff who have experienced a traumatic event. So on the other side of that is our injury prevention and Safe Kids program. Basically, what I do is I get a lot of data from our trauma registry and find out what's happening, who's it happening to, why, when, where, how, and do a lot of research around that so that we can conduct evidence-based interventions. I also compare that data to local, state, national, and even worldwide injury trends to find out what's going on. Right now, some of our current topics include pedestrian, bike, school bus, car seat, railroad, distracted driving, water, ATV, teen driving, medicine, and cleaning supply safety. So we do have a lot of resources available for anybody that needs them regarding injury prevention. So if you are holding an event or if you're thinking of doing something related to injury prevention, just give me a call. There's no sense in reinventing the wheel when there's so many resources out there. So beginning, we'll start with some stats, my favorite part. I love data. So this report came from Safe Kids Worldwide in 2020. It was published, and it came out with a lot of insights that I believe pertain to us. So younger children are more often fatally injured during after school hours, 3 to 6. while older kids are most frequently injured during nighttime hours. Another statistic that I found interesting was that in 2019, there were 359 fatalities. And in addition to that, there were more than 15,000 injuries. And this data is nationwide. But even the 359, even though we're on a downward trend, that's when you're talking about children, that's a lot. So that's why we're still here trying to get going and getting bigger and better so that we can prevent these injuries and deaths from happening. Another statistic that I found interesting was the months that these fatalities are occurring. So as you can see in the graph on the lower left, it's March, July, September, and with the highest being in October. That is when International Walk to School Day happens, and that's when we do a lot of our outreach events, especially, I love to relate it to Halloween safety as well. Younger children are most often struck at mid-block locations, and older kids are about as likely as to be struck at mid-block as they are while they're using the crosswalk. All right, so this is what made my face light up when Kori was talking about how their program is national, but it's important to tailor our community outreach. So I think this is a big one for us. So for those of you here in the El Paso region, every time I give a presentation outside of El Paso, I always brag about how unique our community is, especially since we're right here on the border of Mexico and New Mexico. We have Fort Bliss, one of the largest military bases. We just have so many people that are diverse, and it's important to tailor our education so that we can effectively create change, create positive change. So just a little bit of how I like to break it down, our presentations. I tailor it to age, language, education level, and cultural beliefs. And in doing that, so I'll do a little bit of the age levels. So for infants, of course, we do a lot of outreach for the caregivers. We can target prenatal classes is probably the most effective one for that. For pre-K, I have a little pre-K girl, and she's very, very smart, but her attention span is very, very short, very little. So I do like to target them with like short cartoon videos, especially if they have catchy songs. You'll hear them singing it over and over and over again until they actually start doing it. So I think that's the most effective for them. In the elementary, they get a little bit older. I still like to put cartoon videos because catchy songs are catchy, but I also like to add some interactive activities, like something to get their hands going, hands-on experience so that their brains can process it a little bit better. For middle school and teens, it used to be a lot more difficult for me because it's not very easy to convince middle schoolers and teenagers that safety is cool. I could try all I want telling them that safety is like the coolest thing ever, but they won't believe it because it's coming from me. So what we tailored it to was peer education. So for middle school, I like to give them some learning projects or a poster or video competition. I feel like it helps them absorb the information a little bit better, but also offering a creative outlet and giving them some control over their learning, because I know most of you know, if you tell a middle schooler or a teenager what to do or what not to do, it won't really work. But if you give them that control, if you give them that creativity, it does help them absorb a lot better. And I think it makes the project way more effective. For adults, I do a lot of PowerPoint presentations, share the information, the facts that they need to learn. But I also like to have discussions. I encourage them to share their beliefs and their experiences. And I like giving them that space to tell us what their personal barriers are. Because if you can understand those barriers, then you can help support them in what they need specifically. And you can also challenge a lot of myths this way. The same thing for older adults. We do offer a lot of health-based education, fall prevention, things like that. I was just talking to one of my coworkers. We do get more often than not. It is a very cultural belief that we get a lot of ya pa que, so in Spanish. So it's something that we have to tailor it to make them understand why. And another thing is that multi-generational households in El Paso are we have a lot of them. So targeting education to kids is great. Targeting to education to kids and parents is even better, but targeting it to all the caregivers in the household is the best practice for us, because maybe the parents aren't walking their kids to school, maybe it's the grandparents. So we want to make sure that whole household gets educated so that they can all practice these safety behaviors. So I really enjoyed what Kori said about tailoring it, because what works in other communities might not work for us. And a lot of times it hasn't. So we have to tailor it, but what works for us might not work in other communities. So injury prevention isn't a one-size-fits-all approach, and that's why I think it's so important for us to all come together so that we can help shift those mindsets of safety behaviors. So for Safe Kids Worldwide, as long as grant funding goes, we have a grant funding from Safe Kids Worldwide and FedEx and Bell. They also offered a lot of research for us to conduct, and they already have their evidence-based interventions and awareness campaign. So like I was saying, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's already stuff out there, and you saw the toolkit that Kori offered. And I definitely encourage you, because toolkits are my best friends. They literally have every template there, every direction there, like anything that you need to tailor it to our community, to our specific school that we're conducting that outreach. And so this bottom picture is one of the Walk to School Day events we did, and the kids really liked it. We got funding for t-shirts. We gave them we had signs while we were crossing the street, posters. And Kori also emphasized a lot of planning, and it does take a lot of planning. So for each event that we do, it's probably around 3 to 4 months of planning. So she mentioned flyers, and this is one of the flyers that the school came up with. Along with planning, it's very essential to get as many interested partners and stakeholders as possible. I think that can really help your cause. And of course, one of my favorite partners to work with in these events is the school districts, because I mean, without them, none of it would happen. So the more involved they are, the better it is, the easier it is for me to do an effective intervention. She also talked about the maps. So maps are something that I always love to create. I think it's very crucial for any event that I do, to map out the space that we're using. But along with the maps, we can Google Maps all day, but we actually have to do the site visit. And I learned this the hard way, just so you know. We have to do a site visit right before the intervention, or partner with the city, or do something. That way you don't show up the day of and there's like a surprise construction site in your route. So it's important. Do the site visits and make sure that everything is ready for you to go. We also talked a little bit about how to do the Walk to School Day. So a lot of the times what we do is we have a meeting spot. So it's either like a library or a park, or just something landmarked in the community that lets us use their parking lot. And we all meet there. We do a little registration. On Bike to School Day, we measured for last minute helmets. And then I like to involve the coaches to do like a little stretch or warm up. I think the coaches are definitely a huge help, not only because they can help the kids get a little bit more active, but they can also reinforce our curriculum. So when we go and we give them a presentation on pedestrian safety, a lot of the coaches, they're there, and so they talk to them about it for a while now. So it reinforces that safety information. I think it's a really good partnership. And then, I do want to talk to you a little bit about our Take Action Against Distraction. So this is one of the things that I was talking about when we tailor it. So this was my first intervention that we did for middle schoolers. And I was so scared going into their health class thinking that like, oh, they're going to make so much fun of me. Like safety is so not cool. But it actually turned out really well. We announced this video contest. We gave them some safety information and we're like, okay, well, you can create your own video, make your own safety message that we can share. And of course, not everybody was able to sign the liability forms. Not everybody was able to put themselves in video. So we did a separate poster contest so that everybody could be involved. I didn't want to leave anybody out. But the videos kids get so creative. Like the way their minds work is just so creative. So when they come up with something, it's so unique. I really enjoy it. So I do want to share one of my favorite videos. And if I've given you one of these presentations before, I'm sure you've seen it. I love showing it. I've had it for about 6 years. It was our winner for the Take Action Against Distraction contest. They won $50 for their school, and they got like a little pizza party. The principal was able to give them their certificates, and we made a big deal out of it. So I do want to show you the video that they came up with real quickly.
Rising up, back on the street, look away, people crossing. Your phone can cause a distraction. A car can come from each side. Left, right there, left. That can sure save your life. That may be very useful to survive. You might get hit by a car or a truck. Really don't want distraction. No distraction. No distraction.
It's so cute. They get so creative. Unfortunately, we didn't win the national contest because it is a licensed song. But they can come up with poems. They've come up with plays, even little games. And one thing I did forget to mention, I talked a lot about middle school, but I didn't talk about the high school service learning. So for those interventions, I go to the high schools and I target a class and I teach them. The last one I did was railroad. So I taught them railroad safety, and what I had them do was create their own messaging. So they did their own research, they did their own presentations, they made their own songs and games. And what we do is we also take them to the elementary schools and have them teach the elementary students those presentations. And I find it very successful because elementary students like idolize the high school students. They look up with them with stars in their eyes and listen to every word they say. And at the same time, our target audience were the teens. So that gave them that power of having that information and being able to share it. So not only did they learn, but they were also happy that they were able to help and do something in the community, that they were able to help others. And it gives them that sense of empowerment. And also, more importantly, I guess for them, volunteer hours. So I do like to involve a lot of our teens in volunteer hours. So on the top right is one of the certificates that we do offer. That's for everybody that participates in a walk to school day. And I do suggest it because it's kind of like a thank you to the kids, and they do appreciate it. And on the top left is one of our winners for the poster contest, and the 7th grader. Your life isn't a video game, you don't get an extra one. I think that's good. And then the middle one, the top middle, is one of the activities that I'll show in the upcoming slide. It's talking about the brain and how fragile it is. And I love to emphasize that you can't just like go shaking it around to these kids, because that's how you get concussions, that's how you get severe injuries and things like that. So in the bottom left is another one of our walk to school days, and this is with the poster contest. And the police departments, law enforcement, every partner that we have plays a crucial part. And for the law enforcement, what they're able to help us with is they block off the route, and that definitely helps with our campaign, especially the day of. The only thing that I like to emphasize to the schools and to everybody is that right now that today the police are here, so we're extra safe, but they're not going to be here to block the streets off every day. So we have to practice those safe behaviors, but it's very helpful to have them involved. And on the bottom right is a slogan from Safe Kids that came out, heads up, phones down. It's what I love to teach the kids. We chant it just like they were saying in the last video that Kori showed. We chanted, and it's a good message for the kids to have, but it's also a good message for the parents to have, for the caregivers, for the school. It's nice that we're talking about distracted while walking, but we want to make sure that everybody is paying attention while they're on the road. So everybody heads up, phones down is what we always say. So if you're on this call and you're driving, please don't. Zooming and driving is a big thing now. Okay, so our last intervention was bike, walk, and roll to school day. It was started on May 4th is when we did our launch with presentations. And I thought it was really fun because May 4th is Star Wars Day. So I was able to tailor the presentation to like include a lot of Star Wars in the education. So I had like baby Yoda with like a little helmet, just everything was Star Wars themed. I thought it was adorable. There were some students who did not think it was adorable. I thought it was adorable. Anyway, it was fun. And then the top left picture is one of the coaches. Again, school participation is crucial. So they helped with fitting the helmets. Is this one's too small? This one's too big. And it just reinforces that message. And then on the 21st, we did our bike safety clinic and rodeo. So it was a weekend before the event where we had volunteers fixing the bikes and pumping up the tires, making sure that everything was ready to go for the bike to school day. But we also had different booths, including a helmet fitting station where we were able to provide helmets, and a concussion goggle station to educate them a little bit more about concussions, an obstacle course for the bikes, and then a rules of the ride, teaching them more rules like turn right, turn left, stop, things like that, and how to avoid hazards. That was a very successful one. And then of course on May 25th, we did the big event, bike, walk, and roll to school day, and it was very fun and very successful. So I do want to show you this small video on the bottom left. It's one of the helmet demonstrations that we do with the eggs.
Okay. Now, on the count of three, they're going to count to 14 counts. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, so in this presentation, the kids love it. It really shows them how fragile the brain is. And I remember showing it to a group of our neurosurgeons, and they were very grateful that we're actually out here teaching this so that we can reduce people coming in to our hospital for injuries. And on the bottom right is a picture of the students where we asked them, how many of you walk, bike, or roll to school or have wheels at home? And so most of them raised their hands. They're like, I do. And then I was like, okay, keep your hands up if you wear your helmet. And only 3, granted only 3 admitted to it, so I'll give them that. 3 of them admitted to wearing their helmet all of the time, but the rest, they didn't. A lot of them, when I asked, they were just like, I don't have one. So the good thing is that during an intervention, we come in and we provide them education. We tell them how to do it and why to do it. Then we also give them the resources to help them carry that safety behavior out. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the October outreach that we do for pedestrian safety focuses around Halloween. It is one of the largest, the highest incident rate for pedestrian safety. So we want to make sure that we're doing a lot of outreach, and the biggest campaign that I like to use is Be Safe, Be Seen, just to emphasize that it's important to be seen while you're walking. Please don't wear dark costumes, I always tell them, or we provide them with reflective trick-or-treat bags or armbands or something reflective, just to give them that reminder that they need to be seen out there while they're walking. And on that note, not only do we educate the kids for pedestrian safety, but it's also important to educate other users of the road, because it's just to make the whole thing more effective. So we do provide presentations to teens on distracted driving, to teens and adults. They're different presentations, but they're both on distracted driving. We also relate presentations to speeding, road hazards, drunk and drug driving, and road rage, which is definitely needed. So in every presentation that I give that's related to road safety, so if I'm giving a car seat class or any other a Start Safe travel class, things like that. I always like to include responsible driving in there. I think it's very important that all of us practice safety, on all road users practice safety, no matter what mode of transportation you're using. So in summary, our successes, challenges, and our future. So our successes, 100% hands down, our partnerships. We wouldn't be able to carry out any of these without them. Also, grant funding is also very important. I really like to get incentives, and my favorite incentive for any age really is food. I love to feed the people. I think it makes them very happy. Healthy food, but still food. And a personal success was a Complete Streets. It got us involved with the Complete Streets Coalition, which just successfully passed the Complete Streets policy. So yay, shout out to them. It was a very good win for us to be involved in that. So some challenges. Time. So first, like Kori mentioned, the International Walk to School Day is usually the first Wednesday of October, which worked out perfectly until they changed the school period for us. So now all school districts are on that 2-week intersession. So we've had to do it, we changed it to International Walk to School Month, so we can do different activities throughout the month on that. And another thing with the time is, like I said, you want a lot of partners for different aspects of the event. But when you involve more and more and more people, it's hard to get that timing right where you can plan it because planning takes like weekly meetings and stuff like that. So not everybody has that time. Participation, sometimes when we go into a school and we don't really advertise it as much, so we won't get as many people participating that day. One of the things that we did to improve that was to get the school more involved. So the PTA, the community schools, parent liaisons, principals, and any school administration, we get them involved. And what they actually started doing was offering incentives. Even if it's small incentives, like I know one of the schools will offer a free dress day pass to parents that attend my presentation. So it does help a little bit with getting that participation up. Another challenge is funding. Sometimes we don't get that funding that we need. I love having poster contests. Again, having kids create their own message really is effective. But I also like giving them prizes and making them feel proud for the hard work that they did. So funding really helps with that. I know, especially in bike to school days, I like to give them bikes and just basically any little prize. I know one of the times we gave them a big bucket of slime and she cried. She was so happy. So in the future, again, we want to continue growing our partnerships, increase the stakeholders. I know there's a lot of people out there that are interested in pedestrian safety or bike safety, and maybe they just don't know where to get started. So putting ourselves out there as a resource is really going to be helpful. And if you haven't noticed a theme, future, again, funding. So I hate to say it, but it really is important to get what you want, to get things that you need. We also want to expand our outreach area. So for UMC, the trauma department, what we base our data on is the patients coming into the hospital. So for the outreach areas, what we do is we find out what zip code has the most injuries for this topic. And then we go to that zip code and try to intervene there first. So we see, that's how we establish where we're doing and what we're doing. But we would like to expand it because there's more areas that need the outreach too. And this picture is our last event, the Bike to School Day. Very happy. The balloons that we made. I had my coworkers right here. We were up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, like blowing up balloons. So it was fun. So it was a really successful event, and I can't wait to do more and expand it. I know we're having 2 International Walk to School Days at the end of October, but I really would like to help out anybody that's interested. So if you are trying to figure out where to start, what to do, or if you're having issues, please feel free to contact me. My information is right up here. You can call me at the office, email me. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I also want to open up for questions.
So Anna, there was one question. Could you possibly share some links of the videos you used for the elementary schools? Something we can do in a follow-up email.
Like the links of the videos?
I guess, yeah, the ones you were talking about earlier.
I'm not too sure if I'm allowed to share the videos, but I can definitely make a list of what exact activities they did.
Okay. Great. Anybody else have questions? Crickets. It's a lot of information y'all shared. That was a great presentation, Kori and Anna. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Stephanie?
Just looking through the chat just to make sure we caught all of the.
You like our activities, Kori?
So fun, so fun. You know, I really like how you emphasize the part about, I think that community engagement piece is so important, right? And doing things that make sense for your community. So I liked how you were able to like really zoom in and say, here's what's working here. Like I think that it's so cool to hear about how people shape their programs and just how different it looks in so many places. So this is awesome. And also the piece too about involving like, you know, like different age groups and, you know, intergenerational, you know, programming, working with high school students. Like there are so many moments where I was just like, yes, like I talk about this all the time and it's, you know, it's happening. So yeah, super cool to hear about what, you know, like what you all are working on.
Good.
Yeah. And keep us updated on walk and roll to school month too. I've seen a lot of programs recently that have been adopting that model and doing, you know, having like a walking Wednesday every Wednesday for like the entire month, because like you said, the timing is kind of strange depending on where you are. So I think that it will probably see more people moving to that, you know, that model too. So I'm curious to hear how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Kori and Anna, for sharing your wonderful presentations, and I love that they were both complementing each other. And so we will be sending out the recording and link to these slides to everyone who registered, and we'll keep you all updated on Safe Routes to School programming as well. And you know, as always, if anyone ever has questions, please, you know, reach out to us, and if we don't know the answers, we'll definitely connect you all to folks who do. So thank you all and happy Tuesday.
Thanks everyone. Have a good one.